On my 25th birthday, I unexpectedly saw Steve's phone. Only then did I learn that a year ago he and Kathy had gotten a marriage certificate abroad. I breathed a quiet sigh of relief. I replied to the professor's message about the exchange student program. Thank you, teacher, for helping me secure this opportunity. Just kidding, with my parents' situation, only a fool would choose love over a future. Steve, the day after tomorrow is our wedding anniversary. Shall we go to City A for a few days? The one sending the message was Kathy. She is my half-sister, same father. Out of the corner of my eye I caught sight of Steve and put the phone back. 1.87 meters tall, broad shoulders and a narrow waist. A face as if sculpted by an artist. In terms of looks and family background, Steve was an excellent match for marriage. We met in high school. Fell in love in college. Together for 7 years. Anna. Steve sat opposite me, his voice was as gentle as it had been 6 years ago, yet something was missing. He smiled and took a gift box from behind him. A birthday present. As he spoke, his eyes quietly watched me. Steve is mixed race. His light blue eyes are beautiful, like a rare jewel in the world. From the first time I saw them until now, those deep, shimmering eyes have grown increasingly indifferent. 7 years ago, when he looked at me, his gaze burned with love. Now there is only calm. It was a KL necklace, the newest model. I glanced at it and closed the box. Perhaps in the long interval between me and Kathy, he'd forgotten that I'm prone to allergies. Once, after wearing jewelry to a dinner, I developed hives and in the middle of the night had a high fever and went to the emergency room. He made a small HM, and his withdrawn gaze fell onto the phone beside him. The once unruffled long eyes now showed some undulation. A trace of pleasure lurked at the bottom of them. I knew. He had truly fallen for Kathy. He was also thinking about breaking up. Good. So was I. Because of Steve and me. The Shen and Song families already had multiple projects tied together. Parting hastily would surely affect the cooperation between the two houses. My father is no good at running a business. In recent years the Shen family's market value has plunged, and we can't afford to lose a partnership with the Song family. We can do without Steve. My father can be dispensed with as well. But I cannot give up the estate my maternal grandfather left my mother. Steve fits perfectly. Halfway through the meal, Steve took a call. When he came back he looked at me apologetically. Anna, something urgent came up at the company. He left things half said. He wanted me to finish the rest. Blue eyes are pretty and clear, 3 parts affection can masquerade as 9. I went along with his intent, company matters are important. Steve pulled me into his arms. I'll punish myself. Haven't you always wanted to go to Vail? After I'm done with this month's work, I'll take you on vacation. He soothed me softly. His hand didn't stop either. After 13-14 he added 3 zeros. It wasn't long before I saw him in Kathy's livestream. The man had changed clothes, matching the woman at the center of the crowd who wore a childish couple outfit and a playful headband. It was the first time I'd seen this side of Steve. I turned up the volume. A coquettish female voice sounded in my ear. Today's mission, accompany the CEO in reminiscing about his childhood. At the end, the woman winked. First, let's interview today's protagonist. You've really never been to Disneyland? The man obliged with a shake of his head, his eyes full of adoration. Other amusement parks? He still shook his head. No way. The woman's surprise was exaggerated. A billionaire CEO who's never been to an amusement park. She hummed twice, then coquettishly added. Today I deign to lower myself and, with great reluctance, act as your tour guide. I just checked, he's not some mere 100 billion CEO. He's clearly worth at least $1 trillion. My God, who stole my rich first-generation dad? $1 trillion wealth CEO and it's under a beauty influencer. What kind of novel protagonists are these? You brat, do you get how you're acting? Let me play the part for 2 episodes, don't force me to kneel and beg you. What a cool, aloof, noble CEO, what a delicate girl, so shipworthy. Looking at the two people in the livestream, a mocking smile involuntarily appeared on my face. Steve had been involved with the Song family's business since college. He was a man of strict principles. I once invited him to Disneyland. The man only gave me a lifetime Disneyland pass. It wasn't that he'd never been, he just didn't want to go to that kind of place. I saved the livestream recording and left the room. A notification popped up on my phone. Aaliyah, Anna, your application has been approved. Seeing that message, the nausea in my chest vanished in an instant. Thank you, Professor, for fighting for this opportunity for me. Aaliyah, it's because you're excellent. The project timeline has been moved up, use this time to hurry and get your visa processed, don't let this hold you up. Steve didn't come home all night. Although we aren't married yet, 3 years ago when I was admitted to the Harbin Institute of Technology for graduate school, the Song family bought a 2-story little villa nearby for us. Normally, he and I live here. Come to think of it, Steve had shown signs long ago. I just hadn't dared to believe it. A man who upholds self-discipline and propriety could still commit an affair. Men, really, regardless of character, background, or age, are all the same. The next day I was asleep when something appeared beside me. Anna. Warm hand settled on my waist. My nose filled with the man's scent, subtle sandalwood mixed with iris. Cloying and sharp. Awake? When he saw me struggling, Steve tightened his grip. It's me. His voice softened. I looked at Steve. The marks from where he'd wiped, clear, with faint lip prints, traced his collarbone. His body was hot, restless as he clutched my hand. He had lifted one corner of my nightgown. Steve. I frowned and shook his hand off. Sorry. Steve let go of my hand, his expression smoothed back to normal, and the hunger had vanished from his eyes. What do you want to eat? He got out of bed and changed out of the rumpled shirt. I stayed up late last night working on a project. I don't feel like eating anything right now, I just want to sleep. Okay. Watching his departing back, I sighed for no particular reason. For as long as I can remember, the house was filled with endless arguments and my father's frequent affairs. At first, he still cared about my mother. Later on, I urged my mother countless times to leave him, but she couldn't bear to. She thought there was still a place for her in his heart. Just when she had finally gathered enough disappointment to agree to divorce, something happened. Now she lies in the convalescent home, barely conscious. I know who did it. That man feared anyone slicing up his inheritance. But that property was clearly left to my mother by her own father. Dating Steve. Partly because of his character. Partly because of his family background. I never expected that even someone so proud and aloof could betray me. I quietly looked away. When I looked up again, Steve was gone, leaving only a text on his phone. Steve, something came up, I'm on a business trip for a few days. The timing was too coincidental. Almost reflexively, I opened Kathy's profile. She had posted an update. Kathy, someone's keeping his promise, taking me shopping in City A. Under the video, commenters were all swooning over the sweetness. My mom asked me why my tooth fell out. I told her it's because the influencer I follow is just too sweet. Last night a couple's trip to Disney, this morning honeymoon in City A, truly worthy of a CEO. Such perfect days, when will it be my turn? God, when other people call you grandpa, do they mean it with the sincerity I do? I had no idea what Steve was thinking. No qualms at all, letting Kathy expose his face in the video. I tapped the recommendation on the clip. Steve's mother, Victoria, called. Anna. Come over for dinner tonight? Knowing she had seen the video, I accepted her invitation. Just inside the Song family home, Victoria took my hand. Look at you, girl, if you're coming, why bring anything, she scolded. Not wanting to play games with Victoria, I spoke plainly, Auntie, I want to separate from Steve. At my words, the smile on Victoria's face faltered, but only for a second. "What childish talk is that, over that video today?" she said kindly, tugging me down to sit. "I already called Steve. That woman is only his assistant, he didn't know about whatever video she posted." I knew Victoria would say that. "I took out last night's screen recording. And, since Steve has fallen for someone else, he and I." Before I could finish, Victoria interrupted. "Anna, listen to your aunt, delete the recording and act like you never saw any of this. Your aunt was like you when she was young, couldn't stand this kind of thing, but Anna. People like Steve, like his father, how could their hearts belong to just one person forever? Those outsiders are nothing but toys. Your aunt and his father only recognize you as their daughter-in-law." Maybe because she saw me silent and assumed I'd taken it to heart, she smiled and added, "Your aunt will decide. Didn't your family recently like that plot of land to the south? I'll have Steve buy it and give it to you. Aunt, Steve and she have already registered their marriage." After leaving the Song residence, I breathed a sigh of relief. I had only relaxed for a moment when a familiar ringtone sounded. It was Steve. 2 parcels of land plus 30 million, the marriage certificate was just to placate her. "If you mind, I'll divorce her." The man's voice was still gentle. Not a hint of panic. It was as if he were talking about something utterly ordinary. Before I dated Steve, I liked his unflappable nature. After I dated him, I gradually grew to loathe that calm demeanor. But only now do I realize, being unflappable just means not caring. If he were dutiful and polite, the same with everyone, maybe I could have tolerated it, maybe I would have been willing to marry him. You marry whoever you marry, might as well choose the best option. But it seems Steve doesn't qualify as the best. No. I hung up on Steve. Not long after, he sent a message. "Steve, is Shin Corporation currently in contact with Jiang Corporation? I can help you secure Jiang's authorization." I ignored his message. Although the visa was already secured, going abroad as an exchange student meant there were other things to take care of. It took a week to sort everything out. During that week, Steve didn't contact me. His and Kathy's IP addresses were still in City A. In Kathy's new videos, he still appeared. Steve would accompany Kathy on shopping trips, something he had once scorned as a waste of time. He would go to conventions with Kathy, learning to take pictures for her. He would join her in tacky photo booths. He would spend an entire day with her at the arcade, playing games and shooting pool. In the second year of our relationship, I once bluntly told him I found him boring. His blue eyes looked at me. "Boring? Sorry, Anna, I don't know how to like someone." Steve did know. He just didn't want to. Just as he didn't want to accompany me to Disneyland. Who in this world could remain calm and composed in the face of someone they liked? This relationship was unbearably dull. In the last few days before leaving the country, I stayed at the convalescent home. "Miss Anna, at present the evidence points to one person," the lawyer reported the progress. "After my mother fell into a coma from the car accident, I kept sending people to follow up. I wanted concrete evidence strong enough to put Norman in prison. What do you need me to do?" "I need some people to accompany me to Bend City." "All right, someone will contact you tomorrow." After the report, lawyer Zhao left. On the last day, I received a message from Steve. "Steve, when I finish work tomorrow, I'll bring you a gift." He sent a screenshot of a contract. And the CK collectible bag. "My parents have prepared the betrothal gifts. Next month we'll get engaged, no one will steal your wife's identity, and you don't need to make things hard for Kathy. You and your mother have already wronged her, haven't you?" When I read the last few lines, I blocked Steve. The ones who wronged Kathy and her daughter weren't us. It was Norman. He, blinded by self-interest, abandoned his wife and child and deceived my mother into marrying him. In mid-August I boarded a flight to a foreign country. I had been to the UK earlier with my mother. I adapted to the surroundings here very quickly. The only blemish was that on the 4th day after I arrived here, I received a call from Steve's father, Vincent. Anna. Vincent and Victoria were the same kind of people. Smiling foxes. He addressed me with an affectionate, tender tone. You went abroad? Because the company's business still depends on the songs, I didn't hang up. After a few polite exchanges, he steered to the point. I heard from your aunt, this was Steve's fault. Your uncle wants Steve to apologize to you in person. If you're going to continue your studies, then your marriage will wait until you finish school. It just so happens your uncle wants Steve to go over and take charge of the branch. That marriage certificate between him and Kathy doesn't count. Your uncle and aunt only recognize you as their one daughter-in-law. You're the one your aunt and I watched grow up, we won't let you be wronged. Vincent's voice was mellow. But each sentence he spoke pressed harder than the last. Uncle, Kathy is also my father's daughter, and since Steve likes her, our Song family won't accept that. Before I could finish, Vincent said with a smile, Uncle knows you're a considerate child. I'll help you take back the Shin family. I didn't give Vincent a direct answer, yet he seemed particularly pleased. Almost as soon as he hung up, I received a message from the company informant. Ben, Miss, the Jiang family is willing to see you. Unlike Steve and his mother, who only make empty promises, Vincent actually put tangible benefits on the table first. Send our people to make contact with the Jiang family. Ben, Miss, rest assured. In a few days auction, bid on those 2 plots of land in my name. Ben, Miss, in our account someone will help us take care of it. I couldn't bear to give those 2 plots of land to Norman. Even so, when Steve came the next day, I didn't see him. When I heard he had come to Britain with Kathy, I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Thank him for helping me get things from Vincent. Ben, Miss, those 2 plots were bid on by the Songs, and they sold them to us for $5 million. 2 plots of land worth several hundred million. $5 million was essentially given away. I took it with a clear conscience. I understood why Vincent and Victoria had their eyes on me. The Shin family needed the Song family's support. But I also had things the Songs didn't. My advisor is a leading figure in the AI field, and my fellow disciples and senior brothers are also top talents in that domain. They coveted my connections. They coveted my personal value. They coveted the halo of my research. Any sane person with a working brain would choose me over Kathy. Even if you extend the pool to the upper-class socialites of City A, they would still choose me. Right now the Shin family needs the Song family's help. In a few years, maybe not. Steve, Anna, your appetite really does keep growing. A few days ago, for the sake of the 2 plots of land and the contract, I accepted Steve's friend request. Steve, how much would it take for you to accept Kathy's presence? The whole Song clan. Steve, insatiable. He's the one who's clearly insatiable, wanting it all. Perhaps he'd received Vincent's orders. Steve began appearing in my sight with increasing frequency. I'll walk you home. No need. Anna, I don't like placating people. Steve's tone was even. Kathy and I are divorced. I never thought about breaking up with you, nor about registering a marriage with her back home. My wife will only ever be you. When he said it, his voice still carried a trace of helplessness and confusion. Why do you have to contend with her? He didn't say it outright. I suppose what he meant was, just a little bird. Not worth my anger, was it? Steve, when I was with you I really did think about marrying you. But now it seems I misjudged you. He was no different from those rich playboys in the scene. Just better at hiding it. I got into a taxi. Jasper? I gasped when I saw the driver. What are you doing here? The young master of the Jiang family. How did he end up driving a taxi in a foreign land? The man in the driver's seat had brazen red hair, an unruly look about him, a cigarette dangling carelessly from his mouth. He didn't look like someone driving a proper taxi. Hearing my voice, his hand paused mid-drag. His gaze landed on the rearview mirror. He flicked the half-smoked cigarette out the window. Come out and play. Driving a taxi in a foreign land for fun? That is actually amusing. I'd known him for years as a classmate, though we hadn't been close. I'd encountered him enough to have a rough sense of his temperament. He was nothing like Steve, deep down, unbearably proud. What, you don't allow it? The man's voice was irritably restless. No, not at all, just a bit surprised to see you here, I said softly. Oh. Jasper answered lazily. Why not get in that car? May I refuse to answer? He lifted his eyelids and glanced at me, then didn't ask any more. As we neared the school, Jasper spoke again. No car? When I stayed silent, he added, if you need anything, send me a message. I turned down Jasper's offer. Being on good terms with him had only advantages and no downsides. But, he had once courted me. And I didn't want to form too many ties with someone like Jasper. We weren't on the same path. Jasper wasn't angry at being refused. He didn't speak again, only when we reached the school gate did he say, we're here. As I was getting off the car, Jasper's voice reached my ears again. I was in such a hurry that I didn't catch it. When I looked back at him to ask him to repeat it, the man glanced at me once and drove away. In the second month after I went abroad, I received a call from Norman. Did you break up with Steve? Vincent had seen through my little scheme. To cater to my preferences, he hadn't given some projects directly to Norman. Instead, he handed them to people of mine, bolstering my influence within the Shin family. Reconcile with him, Norman demanded. Do you know how much your impulse has cost the Shin family? Anna, you're 25 this year and you've been with Steve for 7 years. Besides him, who at the same level would want you? You're always confused, who would want a woman who's been used for 7 years? I'm not getting back together with Steve. If you still want to cling to Song Corporation, let Kathy marry him. I hung up on Norman. Talking to someone like him was purely a waste of time. He wasn't worried about Song Corporation's losses, he was worried about his own. Norman sent a message. Anna, have you forgotten that your mother is still in the convalescent home? Who's been paying the fees all this time? If Song really went bankrupt, could your mother still afford such a nice facility? And you too. If I'm not out earning money, how can you gallivant abroad studying? People, how can you have no shame at all? I suppose Steve told him about us, intending to force my hand. The next day, I received a call from Vincent. He offered a contract worth over $100 million in exchange for me and Steve having a meal together. I agreed. I ordered some of your favorites, see if you want to add anything. Steve's voice returned to its usual gentleness. His blue eyes reflected my silhouette. That's it, I said perfunctorily. Kathy's short video account was updated with surprising diligence. These days she posted once a day. Although Steve's figure no longer appeared plainly in her videos, he was everywhere. After seeing Kathy off, I went to have dinner at the old man's summons. He really didn't seem to mind the trouble. All right. Steve chuckled lightly. We haven't been able to do this for several days. I was too harsh a few days ago. I didn't echo Steve. Anna, I'll help you take back Shin Corporation, plus 3% of the Song family's shares, if you accept Kathy's presents. I don't understand. What kind of thought process does Steve have? And who gave him the illusion that as long as the money is in place I can accept anything? I might do some things for money. But that doesn't mean I would sell myself out or compromise my principles for money. I was very clear last time. Anna, tell me a realistic psychological price, I'm willing to give it to you. Steve ignored what I had said. We have nothing to discuss. I came for this meal only, please tell Uncle for me, I'm leaving first. With that said, I stood up to go. The moment I rose, my head went blank for an instant. I had a vague feeling that something was wrong. Steve grabbed my hand. The Song family can't give you anything, but if you and I marry, in a sense the Song family's assets would belong to you. I won't sign a prenuptial agreement. My parents have prepared everything, They're just waiting for us to return home next week to get engaged. My head grew increasingly dizzy. I tried to wrench myself free from Steve, but the man only gripped me tighter. By now, how could I not see it? I had been schemed against by that father and son. I hadn't expected them to do something so disgusting. Steve, do you think I'll just give in because of that? Anna, I know you know about Kathy and me. You couldn't accept it for a while. I'm willing to put up with your little temper. Can you stop making a scene? I don't remember the last thing Steve said. Dazed, I wanted to leave the private room. In the end, I don't know whose arms I fell into. My body felt unbearably hot. I clutched the man's collar. Anna, let go. This man was strange, telling me to let go while he held me tight. The voice didn't sound like Steve's. I lifted my eyes to get a better look at the man's face. Let go or I'll throw you out. The man's words were obnoxious. I also realized who he was, Jasper. I really don't know what you saw in Steve back then. He sneered. Is he just better at pretending, and his grades are a bit higher? Is he better looking than me? Has he got more money than my family? If I ever decided to study, I'd surpass him in no time. He mumbled. I couldn't make out most of the words. I only watched his lips as they opened and closed, finding them tempting. If Steve's face charmed young girls, Jasper's face paid no heed to age or gender. His peach blossom eyes shimmered, deeply affectionate to some, disdainful to others, and his nose was sharply defined. He kept muttering. Why was his mouth so fidgety? Anna, the man cried out, are you making light of me? Do you think because you're drunk you can run wild? It felt as if 1,000 ants crawled over me, my whole body was aflame. Only by pressing closer to the man did I feel any coolness. With the clamor in my ear, my hands climbed back up Jasper again. I recorded it on my phone. If you hugged me, you have to take responsibility for me, understand? It was just a hug. It's not like we registered a marriage, what responsibility? When I woke the next day, it was midday. The unfamiliar decor. A throbbing pain in my temples reminding me of what had happened the night before. You're awake? A blunt voice came from the doorway. Jasper stood there with that conspicuous shock of red hair. Relax, nothing happened last night. I took you to the hospital. As he spoke, I recalled what he had said last night. The doctor prescribed some medicine. Should I take a little more? No need. Come down for dinner? This time I didn't refuse, still wearing the same clothes from last night. Stepping out of the bedroom, I was surprised to see soy milk, pan-fried dumplings, and steamed buns laid out on the table. They didn't look like takeout. Someone like Jasper actually cooks? Why were you there last night? Haven't you heard of work-study programs? Jasper looked at me. But you, what kind of fight did you have with Steve to make him stoop to such a low trick? There were a bunch of reporters waiting outside yesterday. I broke up with him. You should have done it sooner. Jasper snorted and went on, Steve couldn't handle it? Makes sense, he's always been petty. I really don't know what you saw in him back then, your eyes are wasting their good looks. Her mouth was a bit poisonous. But the food was decent. Before Jasper took fares as a taxi driver, he dropped me off at home. I hadn't meant to trouble him, but after 10 minutes with no takers I got into Jasper's car. I told you you wouldn't get a ride. Has your family cut off your allowance? Miss Anna intends to sponsor me? He arched an eyebrow, a pair of rakish eyes watching me through the rearview mirror. No. Not planning to. No money, broke. Like this to someone who saved your life. Near my home, he and I saw Steve's figure. I'm just waiting here for a lucky break. I ignored Jasper's mockery and got out of the car. You broke up with me because of him? Steve's gaze fixed on Jasper. Anna, do you really think someone like him will treat you sincerely? It's nothing but a game. I wouldn't mind if you had a brief fling while we were dating, I slapped Steve twice. If not for Jasper last night I would have been badly hurt, not just harmed but disgusted. Steve, we broke up a month ago. Who I'm with is none of your business. Don't bother me again. At first I wanted a clean break. Because Steve had wronged me, Vincent and Victoria would surely offer some compensation, and they wouldn't withdraw their support for the Shin family on a whim. I didn't expect, though, that their whole family could be so disgusting. Anna, I'm willing to cut ties with Kathy, let's reconcile. When Steve said this, it sounded as if he had made a huge resolution. But I couldn't understand, what right did he have to think that if he severed things with Kathy, I would take him back? She's in that state and still not leaving? Jasper leaned on the car door, his peach blossom eyes watching Steve with amused interest. What happens between Anna and me is none of your business, Steve said coldly. I haven't settled last night with you yet. You still have the nerve to bring up last night? Steve, drugging someone is illegal. Jasper rolled his eyes at Steve. Breaking up, making such a scene like this, that's totally you. And, someone like me? What kind of person do you think I am? For once Jasper sounded serious. No matter what, I wouldn't drug a girl, and I wouldn't cheat on her sister. If Anna were with me, Jasper, and I ever cheated, then whatever's down there, she could do whatever she wanted with it. 26, 27 years old and can't even control his lower half. How could your father trust you with the song company? It's bound to go bankrupt sooner or later. You had to admit it. There was nothing Jasper couldn't say. Steve's face darkened. He wore a frozen expression and was about to leave. Tomorrow I'll have people in the circle spread the word about what you've done, Steve. In the end, Jasper wouldn't let him off either. Thank you. I'm leaving now. Watching Steve's car disappear, Jasper left my place as well. Steve reappeared at my door with the share transfer agreement. Anna, here's the divorce certificate between Kathy and me, and this is the share transfer, and Shin's, didn't you want to take it back? I'll help you. Within 2 years Shin will be back in your hands. He spread the things out in front of me. No, only 1 year. Kathy and I really never did anything. That marriage certificate was just to help her get a green card. Do you believe Steve when he says that? I asked coldly. With Steve's ability, getting that green card for Kathy would have been child's play, there was no way he'd risk himself. Anna, I really never meant to break up with you. Steve's perspective, when I learned from my mother that Anna knew about my marriage to Kathy, I didn't feel flustered. Instead, I was curious about how Anna would react. She often said I was dull. But who was she to talk? 7 years of dating and I still didn't know why she fell in love with me back then. Was it affection? To use a trendy phrase, Anna was utterly indifferent. Gentle in temperament, even-tempered. She and I hardly ever even bickered. She was the perfect candidate for a wife. Yet I couldn't see a trace of romance directed at me and her. When I learned Anna was going abroad, I felt a secret thrill. So it turned out she had feelings for me after all. Usually when we had a spat, money always smoothed things over. I believed this time would be the same. As long as she cared inside, spending a bit more wouldn't matter. But when she accepted the land my father gifted her, I felt a pang of sorrow. What did she care about, me, or my status? Anna was drugged. I hadn't expected my father to drug her. I hadn't expected Jasper to show up at the restaurant either. Jasper took her away. The way they held each other was glaring. A vague panic rose in me. I had never imagined breaking up with her. Her, how could she be with Jasper? This time. Is she going to choose between me and Jasper? I cut off contact with Kathy. I brought the share transfer agreement to her door. I figured Anna wouldn't be able to refuse the lure of profit. I regretted not bringing it the first time. I also regretted exposing Kathy. If I had been more careful, none of this would have happened. That little stake, and you still have the nerve to flaunt it? Jasper's voice came from inside the house. Anna, you and him? The agreement slipped from Steve's hand and fell to the floor. His gaze tried to pass through me, to look into the room. Anna, I'll give you all my shares, be with me. He sneered, I'm not like some people who are only willing to give 3% of the shares to brush off a beggar. As for the Shin Corporation, I'll have my old man buy it and give it to you. Happy now? Anna, are you serious? Steve stared at Jasper. Think what you want. I shut the door. Outside it grew quiet, and the man inside said again, Anna, what I said earlier still stands. Jasper looked at me. His narrow peach blossom eyes were deep. Now that he was serious, he seemed even more alluring. Like a woodland sprite. Think about it? Whatever Steve can give you, I can too. Whatever he can't give you, I can still provide. Not interested. I looked away. You'd better make money and move out of my place sooner rather than later. A young master cut off from his family's support. Do you look down on me that much? I glanced at him and ignored him. If it weren't for the fact that he saved me once, I would have kicked him out long ago. I can earn my own money. As for the Shin Corporation? Attorney Zhao has obtained solid evidence. What is it? I sat down opposite Kathy. The evidence Attorney Zhao had was provided by Kathy. What kind of tone is that? Kathy scolded, if we're going to talk like that, you should still call me sister. I was silent. Kathy didn't continue on that line, I'm here to see you today to say goodbye. Don't think I stole your boyfriend, Anna, he was yours, and I could never truly take him. The fact is Steve isn't the best choice you thought he was. I thought it would take a lot of effort, but only 2 months, she sneered lightly. I never once thought she would fall for Steve. Eyes like white cloth, she mocked again. When you look for someone else, keep your eyes open. Let the grudge between us be over. Your mother unintentionally stole Norman, and I took revenge for my mother. I'm a petty person. As for Norman, I'll leave him to you to deal with. I'm taking my mother on a trip around the world. With that, Kathy stood up. My bank card received a transfer of $2 million. Consider it compensation for stealing your partner? I didn't send the money back. Safe travels. Of course. Norman went to prison. For the next 6 months I was busy restructuring the Shin Corporation and my studies. Steve didn't give up trying to win me back. It was because of him that I saw just how disgusting a person could be. I threw the photos of him and Kathy in his face, and he still said, Anna, I'm just not sure whether you like me. I've liked only you from the beginning. Like me. He bribed me with work excuses while actually taking Kathy to Disneyland? Likes me. Married Kathy? How shameless. But after that, he no longer appeared by my side. Because Song Corporation ran into trouble. It was the Jiang family who did it. Anna, you have such a good temper? You let people treat you like this and don't plan to strike back? With a heart that cruel, you're worse than the Leshan giant Buddha. That was Jasper's exact words to me. Do you know why so many people cheat in this world? The price is too light. Look at me. If I cheat, all the company shares go to you, and that other thing down there you can deal with however you like. Jasper, I'm not looking to date anyone right now. He didn't give up. When you are, come find me. I didn't take Jasper's words to heart. Nor any of the things he said. In this world, who could possibly do that?